Okay, we are covering Welcome to Derry episode 4. Um,
I was disgusted.
you
I
were
have
ahead
to,
of me. Uh,
yes.
you
I
were ahead.
felt bad when I realized that because I was just
No,
like
don't,
shooting off
not at
text.
all. Not at all, because I didn't I obviously didn't fast forward. I wasn't trying. We're going to discuss the part that we were just disgusted by because it's pretty obvious. I didn't know where it was. I felt like I should have after it happened. I felt like I should have because again, the the core of this of it, Pennywise, whatever the evilness, the Galloo that we find out, um, that the Native Americans call it, it feeds on the fear. And so I didn't clock it in the moments in the classroom while the documentary was going on. I didn't clock her face of her watching the snail part, but we'll get into that
Yeah.
later. Let's go through the episode. We'll give our thoughts as we go along. Okay. So the kids obviously show up at the police station with their pictures. They are ready to bust Pennywise, to blow this whole thing open, get Hank Grogan out of jail. And of course, when the adults look at the pictures, boom, no zombies. The only thing that's there is Pennywise the clown
Yes.
ish. Right. So like they're like, listen, we got to figure out something because nobody's gonna believe. Nobody's gonna believe us. Like we've got to come up with some sort of other proof. Lily's like, I'm gonna talk to the lady, the maid, janitor, house cleaning lady at Juniper Hill, and see, like, and talk to her. Which two things I got out of that scene. She's meeting some random adults in like a coffee house or like in a restaurant. Like nobody that grows up, none of these parents flock their kids at like check-in
At
rate
all.
at all. Like nobody thought this was great. Like she's just meeting some random adult to have coffee with. Um, Two, anytime an adult that now I don't know again, Miss Madeline Stowe from Last of the Mohicans, if she has grown up in Derry, but she certainly works there because Juniper Hill is in Derry. Anytime adult is helpful, that let's just say has grown up in Derry, is working, you become suspicious. So
Agreed.
I don't take this help for like, oh, it's so great she has an adult to talk to. There is something weird because none of the adults. We'll talk later that
The adult also works in Juniper Hill, which I don't like. Obviously, it's a job, but I don't know. You work there. I'm looking at you funny. I'm giving you side eye.
right, because only like the reason that the Hanlons seem so engaged in wanting to help their son Will is they didn't grow up there. These are
Right.
new coolers. They are not indoctrinated into this whole weirdness that Derry is. They are aware of something's weird. So when the things happen with Will that we'll get into in a little bit, there's cause for concern. So Lily meets, I can't think of her name, but she meets the housemaid. She seems helpful, super suspicious. Then
Yes.
you with Rose go to Charlotte, Rose, the indigenous woman who runs the
Yes.
school, her and her son or her nephew. I think it's her nephew. Might be her nephew, you find out
Your
later.
nephew.
Okay. They show up at Charlotte's house, talk to her, and Charlotte expresses some concerns about Derry. Rose like, keep your kids close, girl. Like, thanks for the help. Like,
Yeah, very vague. A very vague warning. Like,
again, we'll get into later about how much this tribe knows, but kid, kids go missing. Like,
yeah.
you need to be a little bit more involved than that. Again, we see Hallorann and his friends get a place off of base. They're thrilled by the fact that they're way off base, but let's face it, it deals with the racism at that time. They are wanting them out of sight, out of mind, kind of thing.
All I
Like,
thought of was the juke joint from Sinners. Like you're out in the middle of nowhere having a good time. Like they're gonna come for you out in the middle of nowhere and you have no help. You're just out
especially
there.
working to find out what's in this forest, and now they're like
Yes.
smack dab in the middle of this forest.
Yes.
And again, once again, we see Bert the Turtle and these little documentaries that the kids are watching. So you're once again you're given the turtle. Um, Will's mom finds the pics that that the kids had taken in his desk drawer, rifling through. Like, thankfully, it was just pics of that. Like, who knows? He's a child.
Yeah.
She makes kind of it kind of tells Leroy, like, you need to reach out to your son a little bit. He seems to be going going through some things, but he does have some friends. There's a girl he's interested in. Just kind of go and talk to him. His dad takes him fishing. That gave me a jump scare on it, honest to God. Like, I think the zombie hand coming out, reaching, pulling Will down under the water to drown him. Obviously, Will's father shows up in time, doesn't quite believe him at the moment, but when he sees the marks on his arms
Yes.
and the red balloon, I think for the first time we see in this series.
Yeah, so there have been red balloons, I think, like in the background, but they're like mixed in. This is the first time that we see like one isolated red balloon in
Right.
focus.
Going by, and it's like, oh, and it was interesting to me because an adult saw
Yes,
it as well.
that was that same. I kind of wrote a note down about that one.
And again, I think it goes back to what I said earlier, is adults that haven't been indoctrinated into dairy weirdness kind of
Yeah,
are more like, notice it more
correct.
than the adults that don't. So Charlotte goes to police. She wants to talk to Hank. She goes to the Grogans to get permission. She gets the permission. She goes back, and we find out why Hank is not so eager to tell the police.
A white woman.
Not only a white woman, but a white married woman. And
Yes.
listen, it's like, I'll take my chances in Shawshank because me saying where I was at, like,
Yeah.
get me straight. Like, at least I might be able to fight off anything that I got going at Shawshank. I'm going to get killed. Like,
Yes.
I come out and say I was with a married white woman, like, that night. So we do actually find out that yes, Hank actually wasn't at the theater, wasn't his. The police are correct in the fact that he wasn't at home. His mother doesn't even know where he's at. Charlotte finally kind of pulls that out of him. So we do then, let's see, we do get that Hallorann is cleaning out like you said, the juke joint.
Yes. That's all I can like. That's what I'm considering it from this point.
No, that's hilarious. We'll just call it the joint because I think it kind of turns into that, and then
Yeah.
it's not a spoiler alert to say that bad things happen to this juke joint. But
Yes.
it's out in this forest where he sees his grandmother, who
Yes.
he gets the shine from, who gives him a warning. And then Hanlon shows up and is like, listen, my kid's going through some weird ish. Like, I didn't believe him, but I saw the marks on his arm. I need to know what this mission is about. Like, people have got to start talking. This is a little weird. Will tells his friends about the experience as well. Lily ends up stealing some drugs from her mother to keep the fear away, which, I mean, I don't, I mean, obviously I don't love it that the kids are got to drug up, but it's kind of ingenious. I mean, I'm kind of shocked that the kids in 1989 didn't.
It fit it was accurate in the sense of like they were just handing those out to parents, to women specifically, like back in that time. So like
Right.
when she pulled it out, I started laughing and literally was like, that's genius. Like that fits so well.
Yes, that's yeah, and then you kind of like see during the documentary that the kids were watching at school that Marge extends what we believe to be an olive branch out to Lily, but you kind of understand that it's at the behest of the patty cakes ringleader, that there's something a little weird going on. Again, now we can kind of talk about it a little bit. Is I didn't clock that while the kids are watching this documentary about snails and that their eyes bugging out, that Marge has a visible reaction to it.
I didn't catch that either until after the fact.
Yes, and so you really don't even really pay attention to it because it's kind of gross and kind of you doubted by it anyways. Who's
Yeah.
not? But it comes back to pay that in multiple ways. So before we get to that though, Shaw gets told that kind of Rose has by another like one of the military men that kind of Rose is leading them on this kind of white wild goose chase, like where she's telling them to look, there is nothing.
Yes.
And so he says, hey, there's this group of indigenous kids that keep spying on us from behind the fence. Why don't we kind of take the fence down and see either where they lead us to, or maybe we can snatch one for trespassing kind of thing. But before that happens, then we go back to school. And Marge kind of pleads with Lily to, let her back. But you find out that she uses this boy smiling at her to kind of they're going to play a prank on her.
Yeah.
They're going to lure Lily into talking to this guy who's then going to publicly embarrass her, which I don't understand. I guess I should, because these kids didn't have anything else to do back in this time. Like, but why like the public embarrassing of her? Like yeah. But they decide that they're going to embarrass her. But while Lily is prepping in the restroom with Marge's help, some changes happen with our duo of Marge, and it's super gross, and her eyes begin to bug out like a snail's, which is super gross, especially when you realize that Marge is willing to do anything she can to get rid of these eyeballs.
Yeah.
And takes the nice little she's at the
wood shop classroom.
Yeah, the wood shop. She's in her wood shop and decides to lay one of these nice juicy eyeballs at the table saw, and went off. In the meantime, Lily finds her, tackles her because Marge is trying to stab her other eye out or cut it off. Kids rush in. It looks like Lily is attacking Marge. Now, I will say, fast forwarding to we're going to jump really ahead, is I did watch the trailer for the next.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, and you just see kind of Marge with an eye patch, and now she's kind of like, oh, you're right. Now she's with the loser, kind of the new old loser club kind of thing. So,
oh, really?
Marge isn't. Yeah, clearly Marge and Lily. Apparently Lily isn't, I guess, in trouble. Like maybe Marge comes forth and says,
I thought that was like she's going back to Juniper Hill. Like that's it. We will never see her again.
right. Yeah, I did kind of. I think like you see her with the group. So I'm assuming that it's kind of like washed real fast, but it didn't look good for Lily at the moment. Let's just say it at that moment. Again, Leroy. Then we get to Leroy confronting Charlotte about trying to involve herself in the Brogan case. And he's like, no,
he needs to be nice to Charlotte. Anyone that has beautiful eyes like that, well, she's a beautiful face, but she has some beautiful eyes.
She's a beautiful woman, period.
Yes.
She's stunning. While they're discussing this, Will is upstairs in his room, looking through the telescope that was given to him, and he sees Pennywise down on, behind a tree, like pulling a whole Michael Myers kind of thing.
Yeah.
Screaming. His father runs the room, kind of blames Charlotte for getting him the telescope. He runs out and he's like, now people are watching us, because he ties it to her involving herself with the police and kind of threatening them and causing a scene. Runs out in the street and was like, show yourselves, and sees another balloon, which again, good on the adult for being able to see it. But in the now, what we do is we find out that in fact one of the indigenous kids named Daniel with a T. Daniel has been taken in by the military because of all the problems that Leroy Hanlon has been having around everything. He wants to know. He barges into Shaw. Shaw takes him and says, here's a little glimpse of what we got going on. They go and they watch behind, the glass that Hallorann is going to dig into the mind like he can do. He can read the minds, get into a person's memories, like that, into the brain of this Daniel. And he does. It's a very unique way. It shows him moving. It's kind of like Professor X kind of wise, but he's like moving his head, like in other words, like I'm walking across your brain kind of thing.
Yeah.
We find out that the indigenous people know the story of what they call, and they call our Pennywise Galloo, Galloo, and the he gets into the memory of a young Daniel telling Rose the entire story. It's a wild memory. It's a stretch of a memory because what adult comes in and goes, I want to know if you know what we know.
Yeah, that
Story.
yeah.
It's convenient. I get it. But I'm glad we got it because we do get the quote unquote origins of it, Pennywise, Galloo, what they all want to call it. That it's a million years ago, that it's a falling star, it's a bad spirit. When it crashes, it's set free, but shards of the star can keep it contained. But, and the indigenous people do for a while until, of course, Whiteys show up and ruin the entire thing.
The colonizers.
Please, like, forgive my the fact that if I'm like half Native American, they'll get me off the hook kind of thing.
Right.
But anyways, finds out that when the colonizers do show up, that Pennywise, they go into the forest because the indigenous people know not to go into the forest. The Western Woods, I believe, is what they call it.
Yes.
He starts eating them immediately, and you find out that we always knew that Pennywise eats off of fear. But what he loves to do is he loves to ramp up the adrenaline and the fear because it gives him a little extra seasoning. He likes his
Yes.
food seasoned. And because when his food's seasoned, he gets more powerful. He gains strength. No longer can the one shard of the star keep him contained. The daughter of the chief goes to the forest to confront him. The chieftress, female chief, goes with her group. They get attacked. The daughter realizes we can't do anything. He's gone too powerful. We've got to find the star again. We've got to get more. And Stephen King loves the number 13. There are 13 shards of the star placed around to keep him contained, which is wild because like if he's attacking people like at the school and if he's showing up
Right.
the home, he's not. I don't understand what their version of contained is. Like, what? What is he?
Are
What
the
is he
shards
watching?
spread out around Derry now? So it's like you
No, it
can't leave.
literally showed that. How when it pulled back and it showed those
Oh,
shards
that's true.
around the actual forest. I'm thinking like
Yeah.
Pennywise, like when he's not contained, because he seems a little not contained.
Yeah.
So actually, if you caught it, one of the shards of the star is actually buried in a turtle shell, which I thought was a great little kind of callback.
Yes.
And Hallorann wants to know where the killers are, which again, we will discuss. We are very confused. I mean, we know why the government would want it because the government doesn't know how to keep their hands off that kind of stuff. But like, Hallorann should kind of also know at this point that like this is not something about this is not good. You've run into Pennywise twice now in kind of a way. And then when he is told where to start looking as far as the mine goes, we then are given the glimpse of the mansion or the house, the broken down house that was in the 1989 movie, which was nice
Yes.
to where you kind of start to go underground and find these things. So, overall thoughts?
I thought it was I thought it was a really good episode. It I won't say wrapped up a lot of loose ends, but it addressed a lot of them. Not mainly, but one of the big ones was that you and I had commented how Pennywise was just slaughtering those kids in the theater and everything else. And in the last episode at the cemetery, it seemed like as you said, haunted mansion kind of Tom and Jerry chase, and I agreed. And it was like, and like he had Will trapped, dead to rights in the crypt, and all of them escaped. The kids acknowledged in this episode he was toying with us. He could have gotten us. Like I was immediately like, okay, good. Like they addressed that. Like that helps me digest that last episode because it's like knowing what Pennywise is able to do. Why were you just toying with them in the cemetery? So that I thought was addressed. I thought it moved the story forward, added some depth to a lot of the characters. Will and his relationship with his dad. Charlotte and her relationship with uh,
Authority figures.
yeah, authority figures and just everyone in general. We got we got more on Ronnie Grogan's dad and like a lot of that. We got more stories with Rose. We got the origin story. I am very curious how people feel about that origin story, but I thought it did a very good job addressing a lot of things that they have opened up in the first three episodes or so, which not to go on a sidetrack, but this is how people should take notes that when you open storylines, you should address them and not leave everything till the final like two episodes. Like we are what close to the halfway point and there are still mysteries, but they are addressing some of the mysteries and giving us something to like stand on. Like, okay, so that makes sense, and then build off of that.
Right.
I really appreciated that from this episode. And again, not to take shots at other shows, but that's what's missing from a lot of these seven, eight episode shows.
Yeah. It's yes, it's I'm very glad that they again, and it's kind of like um kind of I don't want to say I'm not comparing it to House of Dragon, but like the House of Dragon story that they're pulling from is a very brief story in that book. And for you kind of like now with it, I would I'm actually very eager to go back and read it because I know they're pulling some of the history and some of the lore from that book. They're also pulling it from some, like we discussed earlier, that the origins, I believe, of Pennywise and this bad spirit comes from like Tommy knockers.
Yeah.
They're pulling that. They're taking a few things that Mike Hanlon is investigating in the book It, and they're broadening that world and that universe for us to kind of like, oh, this is kind of, which is great because there's not so much canon that they have to follow. They can
Right.
make their own story, but yet it's still, we understand it, we recognize it, and it ties into the larger picture of it, which again is we're going to be keep going backwards and backwards and backwards, but it'd be neat because then like anybody who's seen Lord of the Rings hasn't only ever seen it once. They've watched it over and over again. So like after all of this is done, to watch season 3, 2, 1 into the movies will be an experience and kind of fun for
Yeah.
people that enjoy this. If it turns out that it's very good and that you don't want to just kind of stay away from it and pretend like it never happens again. But
Right.
yeah, like overall, I think it's great. Like I said, we do see in the trailers for next week that we are going to finally get our first up close encounter with Pennywise, which
Yes.
is great. Like I think they've done what's kind of good is I believe this was all happening like during the strike, and I think like Bill Sarsgaard was involved in other projects, so they weren't exactly sure about like how accessible he was going to be for Pennywise. But to be able to have this show, not see Pennywise until episode 5 in an 8 episode series, and not feel like you're missing him
Yes.
because the wonderful, I was the wonderful thing about Pennywise, this bad spirit, bully, whatever you call him, is because it can manifest in such different ways. The pickle jar, the snail eyes, his grandmother, the clown. I mean, yes, the clown, but the skeleton man. So many different variations you can use without feeling like you're like, when are we ever going to see the bad guy? We have.
Yep. Yeah.
So yeah, glad that they're like I said, it was even nice seeing that little Easter egg of that broken down house from the 1989, just knowing where we're going and that we are moving towards it. And we didn't have to wait until 1908 to get the origin story of Pennywise.
Yeah. That was good. I was curious what the origin story was going to be, and I think whenever you have something as iconic as Pennywise or anything like that that has kind of just been here, giving something an origin story is always risky. Um, I look back to Star Wars and Han Solo. Han Solo is an iconic character, and we finally got the Solo movie. It didn't do great. A lot of people didn't like it. I didn't hate the movie, but sometimes I'm like, oh, are we sure that's his origin story? Like, it's a very risky move to take something that is so well known and be like, I'm going to be the one that's going to decide the origin story and put your name on it and film it. I thought they did a good job. It's an interesting, like joining of like sci-fi and indigenous people. I thought they did a good job. I am curious other people's opinions. I'm gonna search the internet and all of that, but I thought they did a really good job with it.
I agree with you too, because I think also kind of the beauty that comes with the origin story being millions of years ago
Yeah,
is no one was around.
yeah,
So like there's not really like it's not like, well, I need to know more of that. It's their first encounter is with, the first man on this continent. And
yeah.
that to be the indigenous people, which I think we're gonna get a lot more in the 1908 story, which I'm fine with because that's that. But like right now we're dealing with, okay, we know how it started. That's now we've gotten that out of the way. Now let's focus on why the military, I mean, we know why the military is wanting to use it. It's right now we're dealing with the Cold War. We're dealing with nukes being 100 miles away from the United States and
Yep.
Cuba at the moment. Like we know why, but it's one of those things of it always goes back to the Jurassic Park. Just because you could, you know,
Doesn't
should.
mean we should. Yep.
So now it's like what badness will will come from the military wanting to and do they is that the reason we get more like is he less contained when it comes, like is that how we move towards like the 1989 and him in the sewers, which again I'm a little kind of wondering about that because again like we discussed the containment, he's not really being contained.
He's really not. So yeah, like, where are those shards? What's the radius on how far he can roam and still count as contained?
Right. Like, what does this containment consist of?
Yeah.
Because he seems to be snatching kids,
Mm-hmm.
and he seems to have been. I mean, is it that like he gets so satiated that he doesn't come out for 27 years? Is that part of the containment?
Yeah,
I don't know, but it's a good thing to have new questions
exactly.
because you've answered some older ones in
And
some.
I really appreciate it. And you might say, oh, that's a no-brainer, but we've reviewed enough shows to know that it's not.
No, it's not, especially even if you have an end goal in sight, that sometimes
Yeah.
you can even do that stuff like that. So overall, our impressions are good. I think it's great. I think it's been a great series. I really don't have too many, I mean, like outside of just like the little janky CGI in episode 3, I really haven't had any complaints about it,
No, I haven't.
except for your birthing and eyeballs. I mean, those.
I literally told Sarah, I was like, my two things when it comes to things that gross me out is like watching someone give birth and eyes. Eyes is like my first fear. Like I hate eyeball things. I've mentioned in Game of Thrones when he gets his eyes stabbed out. Like I will watch people get beheaded every day of the week, but as soon as you involve the eyes, I check out. And Pennywise found that out, and that episode last night, I paused it and was like, how did I end up in this situation again? I said that like the last 2 weeks with the whole birthing thing, but last night I truly was like, I need to take a walk.
Right, especially because like we just came off of Alien Earth, where there
You're
was an
right.
actual like alien eye
Oh,
that attacks people. So yeah,
yes.
it's been a good year for Will.
Yeah.
Keep him in your thoughts because we don't know I mean, we
I
don't know.
just like at this point, I have no idea what's it's going to be an eyeball giving birth next week.
Yeah, so stay tuned for next week where Will discusses his fears and how Pennywise covers on them
Yes.
because he keeps voicing them and they keep showing up in the.
Ugh.
So yeah, overall, like I said, no complaints. I think it's great. I think I love the little Easter eggs here and there. I think they're peppering them just enough to where if you don't know any of it, you haven't seen any movies, you haven't read the book, you're still following along. You're not so, it's not so, you're so weighted down in all these like, well, you got to know this in order to just, it's not doing that to you. It's just kind of taking you along for the ride. And hopefully
Yes.
then you want to dig into more lore as it goes on. So yeah. Any last words you got?
I kind of said it each week to myself, but huge shout out to these kid actors. I try to keep my criticisms of acting performances when it comes to kids to a minimum because they're kids. But
Right.
I'm watching the live action Avatar: The Last Airbender. I watched the Star Wars Skeleton Crew. I didn't watch Stranger Things, but I've seen multiple shows where like kids are the main focus, and sometimes when you're de dealing with deep, emotional, heavy scenes, it doesn't hit as hard because the kids just aren't as seasoned actors. All of the kids in this show have done a phenomenal job week in and week out. So shout out to them.
100% correct. They've really done a good job. They make you care. They make you scared for them. You're invested in them. You don't want to see any harm come to
Yeah.
them, especially when they're willing to kill off a whole group of them in the first episode. So you're kind of like,
Right.
please, please, please don't let anything happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I think yeah, episode 4, we're still grossed out. We're moving the ball. It's very, very dairy.
Yes.
So yeah, I no complaints. Think it's great, and we hope that you stick with us through episode 5 when we finally see Pennywise in his true form.
Yes.
Those stars go.